You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife, using their child for PR. It's no surprise, of course, that Harry's wife would utilise her child to prop up her own faltering public popularity. Her popularity is tanking across the world, already very low to begin with in the United Kingdom for obvious reasons. Recent polls in the United States have shown that it has fallen even further, and across other countries, many people are seeing her for what she is, a self-absorbed narcissist that pursues her own self-interests, maintains a very boring, stuck record of victimhood, a complete hypocrite, somebody that operates with a rampant sense of entitlement, exhibits no accountability for her behaviours, somebody who draws people in, uses them and then casts them to one side. Unsurprisingly, popularity is important to her. Being unpopular as a threat to her control damages her facade because she truly believes, in her deluded world, that she is someone who should be admired, liked and loved. She believes that all men want to knock her hip out, that all women want to be like her. And rather than understand that, justifiably, many people do not want to be anything like her or have anything to do with her, she is unable to comprehend that people would think that way, and instead find it necessary to seek ways to make herself popular again. One way of doing so, of course, is to utilise her daughter as PR. Of course, what she could have done, she could have had the christening of Lilibet and not made any mention of it whatsoever. She could have ensured that the use of the titles occurred and done it without there being leaked information about that being the case. But of course, her narcissism demands that she do that in order to nullify the threats to control that are posed by people repeatedly criticising her, to try and draw fuel from those people's responses. And of course, as always, she's on the sniff for money. She doesn't love her child. She believes that she does, but she doesn't because as a narcissist, she's completely devoid of emotional empathy. Her narcissism creates the fabrication that she does, but of course, many of her behaviours demonstrate that she doesn't, and this, basically merching out her child for the purposes of attempting to prop up her failing popularity, is another exhibition of the fact that she can't love her child because her very behaviour demonstrates it. This has been picked up on also by Daniela Elsa in the New Zealand Herald, who writes, "Missing 55 minutes expose Harry and Harry's wife's daughter Lilibet christening mystery." Maybe they were out of letterhead at Buckingham Palace on Wednesday, or maybe it was the junior courtier who is in charge of the press release's day off, or maybe King Charles had forgotten to inform his aides of this development because he was too busy re-alphabetising his collection of books on Sufi mysticism, or reorganising his rock collection. Even kings need days off after all. How else to explain one of the oddest series of events in recent history? I'm talking, of course, about the very strange rollout of the news that Harry and Harry's wife, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, have christened their daughter, announcing her as Princess Lilibet, thus making her the only Californian toddler who could have her own cipher. Likewise, their son Archie III could now, should he choose, have Prince slapped on his Paw Patrol lunchbox. What's also strange here is not that the Sussex little uns are now officially a prince and princess, titles to which they were entitled from the second that Grandpa Charles acceded to the throne last year, but how all of this unfolded. See, the world did not hear of this development via the cut-glass vows of a palace spokesperson or via a crisp official statement, but courtesy of People magazine. Pausing there, as we all know, People magazine is one of the supine publications that pumps out the PR releases on behalf of Harry's wife, and therefore she deems it appropriate to merch and exploit her daughter via People magazine. Never before, as far as I'm aware, has an announcement regarding titles come from anywhere but the palace, and certainly never before via a celebrity mag that is generally more concerned with breaking stories like the Clooneys announcing they have a new rescue kitten, or for some America's Got Talent star revealing they have gotten bangs. Royal title news coming via an American celebrity rag is about as normal as the King choosing the West Barry Bugle to announce the next state visit, or Princess Anne actually taking a day off. People's Scoop would seem to have caught both royal reporters and the firm on the hop. While a royal source told the Mirror's Russell Myers that an appropriate conversation between the palace and Montecchio had taken place ahead of today's news, confusion still seemed to reign in London. At just after 12 p.m. London time, the People story hit the internet, leaving the small cadre of highly credible royal reporters who cover Charles & Co. seemingly scrambling. At 12:12 p.m, the Daily Mail's veteran royal editor, Rebecca English, tweeted about it before adding at 12:19 p.m, "I'm waiting clarification about this from Buckingham Palace." And it was nearly half an hour later, at 12:55 p.m, that confirmation seemed to come through, with her posting that the Sussexes have now chosen to use the titles for their children. It would take a number of hours for the full picture of what was been going on behind the scenes at the palace and in Montecchio to come out. The thing to not lose sight of here is not what's being said and done, but what's not. Not a single word of support or happiness has passed the very thin lips of anyone speaking officially on behalf of the King that his grandchildren will now be known as Prince and Princess, or about Lilibet's christening. Nor was the Honiton royal christening gown, well, the replica they've been using since the Victorian era, shipped over from the UK, the same frilly number used for all royal babies, or any of the holy water sourced from the River Jordan, normally used for these moments, FedExed to the Sussexes. Just might the Sussexes have been trying to engineer some sort of checkmate here. The timing of Lilibet's christening is particularly interesting. While son Archie was dunked at about 2 months old, why the Duke and Duchess might have waited until their daughter is just several months shy of her second birthday is a bit of a mystery. Things have not exactly been tip-top in Count Montecchio of late, with both South Park and comedian Chris Rock skewering the royal couple ever so publicly and ever so painfully. Both of those events see parts pass him, huge threats to control. Then came the humiliating revelation they were being booted out of their home on the royal estate, Frogmore Cottage, a move that the King decided to take while the ink was still drying on the first copies of Harry's memoir, Spare, further wounding. It would make sense if the Sussexes' decision-making regarding timing had something to do with the fact that they are now regularly the butt of TV jokes, and that their approval numbers in the United States have only plummeted and then plummeted some more. They have hit a lowest in January, following by tumbling further to hit an even lower low in February. Mocked and viewed unfavourably by a swathe of the American public, challenge fuel, this christening news sure did come at a super-duper handy time, offering something of a PR firebreak for the Sussexes. Not only does this sweet story change the channel, so to speak, and switch the narrative, but it also serves as a handy reminder of their royal status. Accordingly, pausing there, it's very clear that Harry's wife, self-centred, self-absorbed, under threat from these repeated threats to control, simply chooses to release the christening and have it now and release news about it to shore up her own position. Once again, it all has to be about Harry's wife. No matter why the Duke and Duchess chose now to christen their daughter, and it is to try and stave off those threats to control, of course, what is not up for discussion is the sheer gross hypocrisy of it all. Harry and Harry's wife are fresh off having staged the biggest strike against the British monarchy since Oliver Cromwell started getting ideas, and both have spent much of their various TV, interview and book outings detailing the trauma they experienced as a result of having been part of the institution. Pity play. Harry has, over the last couple of years, said the royal family is guilty of unconscious bias, accusing them of total neglect, argued that he wants to break the cycle of the pain and suffering of his childhood, and said that being born into the monarchy means you inherit every element of it without choice. For the love of God, why would he and Harry's wife want their children to be so publicly associated and tied to an organisation that they say is biased neglectful, and the source of so much misery for them? Well, it's quite simply this. He's a hypocrite because he's thick. She's a hypocrite because she's a narcissist. They will bleat and cry about the royal family because it allows her to assert control, and he is within the awful shared fantasy that she has created by brainwashing him. She bleats about it in order to assert control through pity play, and then, in the next blink of an eye, ties her children to the royal family by utilising the titles because she doesn't care about what that actually means for them. All that matters is that she is then able to flaunt that and triangulate people with it, showing the lack of emotional empathy she has for her own children, the self-absorption that she has, which is off the charts, and how it always has to be about her. Supposedly, this is all about choice for Archie and Lily. The Telegraph has reported the Sussexes are said to be keen to not deny their children their birthright, but to allow them the chance to decide for themselves when older whether to drop or keep using the titles. In effect, that's blame shifting. We're going to put it towards the children for them to make a decision. But then why not go down the very smart path taken by another royal spare, Prince Edward and his wife Sophie, Countess of Wessex? Like Archie and Lilibet, their children, daughter Louise and son James were both born as grandchildren of the monarch, thus making them entitled to be known as a princess and a prince. However, the eminently sensible Wessexes decided they wanted to try and achieve that loftiest of goals, some semblance of family normalcy, and instead chose much lesser titles, and leaving it up to the children to decide on their 18th birthdays whether they would like the full titles to which they are entitled, and whether they want to use their HRHs. In November 2021, Lady Louise chose to keep things exactly as they were, turning down the chance to become a princess. Last anyone heard, she was studying English at St Andrews University, having previously had a part-time job working at a garden centre, where she was being paid minimum wage. Throw in a dented 2012 Astra, and you can't get more average than that. Would it not be easier for Archie and Lily growing up in California without being encumbered by titles, knowing they can take them off ice and start using them when they are adults? Indeed, I would suggest that would have been the better route, to say, you're not having the titles now, but you can have them when you're 18 if you want. That would have been fairer. But of course, Harry's wife isn't going to do that. Why? Because she wants to cock a snook at the world, to say, my children have got titles, even though we all see that as her being a rampant hypocrite. She has to do that because she wants to get back at the world because it's been laughing at her recently. She has to nullify that threat to control which rumbles on from the worldwide privacy tour of South Park and Chris Rock taking the piss out of her. She needs to fight back against the observations that were made from the clusterfuck that is Wah, and it burns, and therefore she takes the action of using her children as a means of diverting from all of that because she simply doesn't care about them. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.